Coming up on the Making Waves VO podcast.
Living in Orlando, I'm really charmed by it, and I have a soft spot for theme parks, of course. But something like that, I think that is a little bit removed from the profit machine and a little bit more leaning towards, enriching experiences for people and connecting with audiences.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves. Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
This is the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell.
It is indeed the Making Waves VO podcast, proudly presented by our good friends at Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
Bobby, I'm so excited. We've got a great guest coming up in just a second. We're going to talk with Chris Okawa, a very talented voice actor and coach and a director as well. We're going to chat with him in just a second. But Bobby, how have you been? How has this last week treated you?
It's good. It's all good. Working. March is good. How's your March been, by the way?
Madness. March Madness. I don't
We're
know
not
if I
talking
can say that.
sports.
I don't know if I can say that. I don't know if it's trademark copyrighted.
I think it is, actually.
Yeah. But March Mayhem. It's March Mayhem. How about that? all the car commercials every year they come around, and because that March Madness, I believe you cannot use that in advertising, except for the NCAA tournament. So yeah, it's always advertisers try to come up with something similar. It's March Mayhem. It's March Markdowns. It's March Madness. Oh, no, can't use that one.
Oh, speaking of March Madness, real quick, I was shocked and thrilled that not only, of course, did Tennessee get in, Vanderbilt, where my daughter went to school, is in, and Tennessee State is in.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to talk about the Arkansas Razorbacks winning the SEC tournament. Come on now.
Yeah.
That's my roots, and they beat Vanderbilt. So sorry.
I know. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. And we're going to talk with Chris Okawa about sports a little bit too, but let's bring him on. Ladies and gentlemen, he's such a talented actor. He spends a lot of time in the animation sandbox, a lot of time in the video game sandbox, but he also coaches and directs, and he does some sound design work as well. My goodness, this man is fully immersed in the voiceover community. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Making Waves VO podcast, Chris Okawa. Hey, Chris.
Hey.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.
I hate that you're
Thank you for
struggling.
that glowing intro.
Hey, you're struggling for work so much, man.
Got a lot
Moths
going
flying
on.
out of my pockets.
So, Chris, it's so great to get to know you. I've gotten to know you from the directing standpoint over the last year or so. And our producer of the podcast, Lacey Deline, also a very talented voice actor herself, she introduced us. And she mentioned having you on the pod. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, that is just like a no-brainer. Let's go. And so, Chris, tell us about your world. Tell us about your incarnation of the voiceover world. How'd you get started in this wacky business?
For sure. So I started my journey actually in the musical theater and theater space. I'm a child of a New York actress, and we had a little family theater company for many years out in Arizona. And I was acting in musicals. I went to college eventually to get my BFA in musical theater. But as far as, the call to the mic, that kind of began a few years prior. My dad had this long commute, and he would listen to these audiobooks. They're not Cormoran Strike, but they're like of that same ilk of like these like really gritty noir audiobooks, and the Dan Brown stuff too. And he would sometimes forget to turn it off when I got in the car, which was sometimes detrimental because some of those scenes are gruesome for a 9-year-old to hear. But even a glimpse of. But I just was so taken. I always say my first love was audiobook, was the idea that you could be the hero and the damsel and the dragon and the castle all all wound into one. And so I went to college to do musical theater and go out to New York, which I did. But I was as you're hearing the catastrophic thunder from Florida.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It sounds
We
like
got
a
it last
dumpster
night.
rolling down a hill.
It does.
But by the end of my tenure at school, I was known as like the voiceover guy because I was, a nerd about it and had studied it and did folks stuff, worked on friends' stuff for free and was experimenting with different recording equipment, et cetera. So I was very well on my way towards voiceover by graduation day, even though I did initially set out to do musical theater.
Wow. So tell us about your family background, because you have some history that could possibly add to your characters or to your sound.
Yeah. My mother, Mary Jo, she sort of specialized in Golden Age musicals. And so I was exposed to, all the greats and, the Lerner and Lowe's and the Rodgers and Hammerstein and, all of that rich, fertile theatrical ground, broad characters, passionate people that risked life and limb to pursue what they wanted. And so I learned about really inflated stakes from a young age and this kind of, this daring that these characters had to change their stars. And I would say that that's a pretty clear, piece of red yarn leading to my working in video games is that I think it is the most theatrical voiceover medium in that it is always life and death for your characters. If the player doesn't control your character correctly, they fall off the map, right? And so that brassy, vibrant, ebullient sort of upbringing in the theater, it has a direct line to my everyday. Yeah.
That's amazing. That is so cool that you do so many things and you play in so many areas. And I kind of teased it a minute ago, but you have done a lot of sports promo work.
I have.
Are you a big sports guy?
I've gotten into what I am working on. So I've got really into NFL in the last few years. Getting to work on their enhancements team has been just such a joy. And I got really into UFC back when I did the 2024, 2025 fight nights. We did 30 fights a year, the cold opens.
Oh, wow.
So I got really deep into UFC in that time. But yeah, I love it. I grew up playing baseball. We were a sports family. I played lacrosse in high school. Sports are very present in my life. But I'm more NFL, UFC these days.
Does that passion translate into the actual work?
I think so. I think it's a nice marriage, actually, of my two roads, right? Like my dad was kind of like the lifeblood of the sports influence in my life. And then my mother was the theatrical. And when I'm doing, I tend to do a lot of the cold opens. The cold open is setting the stage. You're naming your main players. You're naming the stakes. You're telling the story. And then I think the fire, the passion, the deliberacy, I think comes from the inner sports fan for sure. Totally. Love it.
So did that work come pretty much from Atlas, your agent, or because a lot of us, especially huge sports fans, we would die to do regular sports promo work. So how did you come about getting into that area?
Yeah, it was kind of a bit of like a flat-footed audition, through my agents. They do a fantastic job of getting us a broad variety of stuff. I remember with UFC, I didn't think it was an ongoing gig until the end of the session. I thought it was like because when I work with NCAA doing football stuff, I did the ACC championship for a couple years in a Rose Bowl that got scratched. Oh, wow. Those are one-offs, right? Like you're auditioning for, you're reading some teaser and you get selected. With UFC, it was this, it was a long 2-3 minute spot because that's how long those cold opens run. And I booked it and I did the session and I was thanking everyone, on the line and said it was just a real treat. I knew so little about UFC at that point that I think I said bantamweight and I was like, I just lost the job.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh.
Bantamweight for those that don't know.
Exactly. So, but at the end, Lappy, our producer, he said at the end of every teaser they have and it starts right now. And he's like, I need you to figure out what your "it starts right now" will be like. Each era has its own. And I was like, era? And he's like, okay, we'll see you next week. And that was sort of how my relationship with UFC began.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really surreal. And it's also crazy to be, on the roster. It's me. If it wasn't me, it was Ron Perlman, so it was like Perlman would do the Perlman would do the numbered events, and then it would go to me. I would do the fight nights, and sometimes Perlman would get one of my fight nights, and I'd be not upset about that because it's Ron Perlman.
Of course.
Same thing happened with Peyton Manning with the NFL last year. They're like, oh, Peyton Manning took your spot this week. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I wrote back to NFL. I said, it's an honor to join the long list of men that have been bested by Peyton Manning.
Very cool.
In the Making Waves VO podcast, we'll be right back.
Hey, y'all, this is Tim Heller.
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 What a strange young man.
Who's Tim Heller? And you're listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin and Bobby. And all the other voices you just heard.
Finding the right gear for your voiceover work shouldn't be stressful or expensive. At Full Compass, we make it easy with top quality equipment at competitive prices and free same-day shipping. With nearly 50 years of experience and a team of certified product experts, we're your one-stop shop for mics, interfaces, software, and more. Get free expert advice. Call 800-356-5844. And for unbeatable prices, go to fullcompass.com. Full Compass. We know VO.
And now back to Making Waves. One of the things I love about sports voiceover is that you don't really, for the big stuff, the football and soccer and that, you usually have to have an age. But I've seen a lot of sports VO jobs coming up on pay to play. And
interesting.
Yeah. That's how I got my voice for the Kansas City Royals was on Voice 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love
yes.
that's happening because not all of us can be picked up by a huge agent. So it's fun to be able to play in that genre.
Yeah. Actually, the Royals in that space, I've had the privilege of doing a couple for them through pay to plays as well. Yeah, their office is really equanimous. Like they don't gatekeep a lot. So it's they're a great organization.
Very cool. And I noticed, Chris, that you just kind of teased it a minute ago, but I noticed this reviewing your work that you can transition to quote unquote an announcer vibe. Pretty easy.
I know. I
did you notice that, Bobby?
Too. I sure did. He
so
had a little growl in there.
So for the people that do the announcer vibe regularly and they can't really help it too much, Chris, stay in your lane, okay? No, I'm just kidding. Of course, I love the fact that you're a chameleon in that way, and so let's transition from the sports stuff to the video game work. How do you get into a character? How do you start fleshing out a character? When you get an audition, you get the specs, you get the image, you get all these things. What's your first steps in that process? And let's say for an audition.
Yeah, for sure. I like to work from a system that I call the high level, which is like has its basis in Stanislavski's Beats and Intentions, where you're just like really asking the question, like, what is this scene about? Before we start digging in and adding, bits and bobs to it, really asking, like, what does this person want? And I tend to play a lot of villains, and that question's a little bit harder to ask for them, right? Because their actions tend to be antisocial, in opposition to the society that they live in. And so, I try and not skip that step and really sit with, well, what does this character want before we start pursuing how they are going to get it, tactic by tactic, moment by moment. I would say that's probably like my first step, is getting a feel for, well, why are we all here?
That's fantastic. Yeah. And what is the comparison between that and then going and doing a chase spot? Commercial, because the preparation's got to be so much different, right?
Yeah, I'll say, I think booking commercial stuff is I find so challenging these days because of the conversational, movement, right? I'll hear something on, maybe I'm watching an NFL game or something. I'll hear something. I'm like, wow, anyone could have done that. Yeah. And that's, I think, a great way to connect with your audience for sure. I'm not knocking it, but sometimes it feels like really, kind of casting a stone. The premise for doing commercials I try to stick to is who are you speaking to, and why. And even then though, because I like to do a bunch of different character-y voices and try and make them sound as authentic as possible, then it kind of feels like, all right, I can only pick one hat to put on. Which one is it? And that can sometimes feel like a stab in the dark, because of how much commercial stuff, how much character stuff I strive to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And growing up with stage and Shakespeare and that kind of work is probably makes it even more difficult to just get into a commercial.
Oh, entirely, Bobby. Yeah, no, entirely. Yeah, and I will say, like, I found this nice little niche recently in doing character commercials, which is kind of cheating, just doing characters again. I got to be one of the changeables for this recent McDonald's campaign, which was a lot of fun, and I'm the current voice of Hostess, which is this like screaming on the subway type character we created.
I checked out that spot, by the way.
So
it's
enriching.
Great. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic. I love the character you're doing there. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It was a fun journey to that one.
And you are also an audio engineer. Kevin mentioned about directing,
Mm-hmm.
but you're an audio engineer as well. Gosh.
I dabble.
When did that start, and what all do you do as far as engineering? Do you make demos?
Yeah, I do produce demos. I don't advertise my demo production because just time-wise,
Yeah.
it's more like when there's a need or when I feel like, I'm working really well with someone, I'm happy to step forward and make one. They're like kind of, I guess, auteur demos in that way. But my journey actually started just out of necessity, like necessity being the mother of invention. I started my voiceover career the day after I graduated. I was in this converted pool. We called it the pool house, but it was like a pool storage building. And it was $500 a month. And the carpet was like stickers. And I knew so little about audio capture that I almost called my company Bottom Bunk Productions, because I lived in a bunk bed, even though I was living alone. And I was thinking that I was producing this audiobook, and I was thinking, I'm going to sit on the bottom bunk of my bed, and I'm just going to read from the physical manuscript of this book into a microphone. And just all of the natural travails and trials that came from that period of, recording with the mic backwards, not knowing how to mix it, mixing it too hot, learning about RMS, I became pretty self-taught through many, 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 many hours in that little pool house for those years before I moved out to New York. I've mentored with some more experienced engineers along the way, and got to be a supervising editing engineer on a feature called Gap Year a few years ago with my buddy Bix, and I've mixed a few of his short films as well. I've done Foley capture and ADR capture for another film called What She Said on Amazon. That's a really powerful film. So it's kind of this blend of necessity and just collisions with really interesting, generous people in my path that have developed me as an engineer.
It's so funny because in the voiceover world nowadays, like, nobody is just a voice actor hardly anymore.
So
it's
true.
like there's so many adjacent things that you can do, and it's part of the gig economy. It's like people have all these various gigs that kind of equal one income. The times have changed over the years, that's for sure. We're going to get a nightmare session story from Chris coming up in just a little bit, but I want to talk about something that in either your video game work or your animation work, have you done, and it's not necessarily a nightmare, but have you had to do a character and you're like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? Or you're in over your head, you didn't feel like you were competent to do it, or you did something uncomfortable perhaps in video game or animation work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one was just kind of like not even a wires cross. It's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. Like, a lot of times I'll audition for a game and I won't get the role that I read for, but I'll, fill in, I'm a fill guy. I'll fill in as additional voices or do this thing or that thing.
Man Behind Tree, Chris Okawa.
Yes, exactly. Starring Man Behind Tree. Yeah. And one such situation was Game of Thrones King Road, which was produced over at Mark Grau, which they've been so wonderful to me over the years. They're awesome. And Bill Millsap, who I really admire, was directing. And I had auditioned because they needed perfect voice matches for the show, and I'm a big Game of Thrones fan. And so I auditioned for Lord Peter Baelish. I read this, the monologue and auditioned for it, and I was like, that is fantastic. Like one of those where you're like, wow, I actually did a voice match.
Nailed it.
A rare triumph. A rare triumph. And they take me like 3 hours. And anyways, so I submitted it. And I get this booking email back. They're like, Chris, something about it too is that you could audition for a voice match of the character in the show, or you could do one of 12 extremely, extremely regional and antiquated British dialects. Like they were like town-specific dialects.
Wow.
Whoa.
And it is not my specialty. I do like RP and Cockney, and that's it. I tend to focus on West African dialects and such. But I was like, well, I'm not doing any of those dialects. An expert's going to do that, or an actual native British person. And I booked it, and they're like, you are doing additional voices. And I just like almost pooped my pants. I was like, no.
Maybe you misunderstood.
No. So I found myself in the session, and sure enough, God bless Bill. He's like, okay, what of this list of accents do you do? And I'm like,
oh, wow.
Maybe North Country, but I swear, Bill, I didn't, I'm not a joker. I wasn't auditioning to do the accents. And so I think I ended up playing like something like 15 characters, and we like listened to an accent in session, and I was trying to do it, and Bill lovingly cut me off. He's like, no, that's not going to work. And so we got a bunch of like Northumberland kind of General Brummie kind of Night's Watchman that I played in that, and some other things. But it was like, it was such an innocent underqualification moment in my career. And I was so grateful for the the grace that I received in that session.
What an experience. You just rolled with it.
Yeah, I was so afraid. It was like, no, not 12 things I've never done before. So yeah, that's one that comes to mind.
Oh, I love when I meet a British voiceover talent. I love to ask them what they think of us trying to do different British accents, because it's always the same. As Americans, they say, you're flat. You're so flat. It's like, what do you mean? But don't go anywhere. The Making Waves VO podcast returns in a moment.
Obviously, I should probably stick to the copy, but it's the Making Waves podcast with Kevin and Bobby. Interviews and the news, keeping you up to date. Matthew Sumner and Palm, can't forget my slate.
Bobby, Full Compass has their finger on the pulse of technology in terms of how it applies to us, we voice actors, musicians, and corporations as well for like high-end audio and video equipment. But for we voice actors, they are really staying on top of things. As a matter of fact, Yamaha has had some really cool things drop recently.
Yeah, they have some new product launches. This one really caught my eye. The Yamaha MGX series, the digital mixers there. They come with advanced HDMI USB capture and HDMI pass-through functions. Now, I know you use this kind of stuff. Plus, they enable seamless integration of your high-definition video if you need that, streaming setups, and so much more.
So check that out on the website. Oh, by the way, at fullcompass.com, they have redesigned their website homepage. So it's going to be easier to use. It's a better interface. Make sure you look at the bargains that are going on with Full Compass, because they've always got something on sale that's going to save you money. And can we just brag about Full Compass for just a second, and specifically, Bobby, their fearless leader?
Can I give a little sister power here?
Yeah.
Because I'm all about that. Susan Lipp. She was named the NAMM, the N-A-M-M, She Rocks Female Entrepreneur of the Year. And at the awards, she was honored with that, a really powerful recognition of her decades of leadership, advocacy, and innovation in the music products industry. So you rock, Susan, literally.
That is awesome, and it's just one more reason to feel good about doing business with Full Compass. So make sure you go to fullcompass.com. If you want to talk to somebody about your gear and your gear needs and you want a personal consultation, they will do that absolutely for you and give you the best expert advice without any pressure to sell you anything. Their number is 800-356-5844. And Bobby, they have a shipping policy, right?
Yeah, if it's over $49, absolutely free.
So check it out, Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
Making Waves returns.
Is there a genre that you haven't tried to break into that is on your list?
In character work?
Yeah. Or in just in voiceover in general?
You know, I have my eye, oddly enough, I have my eye back on audiobook. And, you know, the production on it is, do either of you guys do audiobooks?
I've done a few, but that's enough.
It's a lot of work, right?
I don't do long
The production on it. Yeah, the production on it is so intensive, and I have such admiration for folks that do it full time. I had a friend that recently celebrated their 400th title on Audible.
Wow.
And I was like, you know, I have 3 and they almost killed me. But you know, I'm such a fan, again, like I said, I'm such a fan of that form. And, you know, I love listening to, you know, Beautiful Ruins or The Knicks or The Goldfinch, just immaculate audiobooks. And I'm like, I want to make one of I want to get one of those, you know? So that's one that's sort of in the back of my mind, although my reason does know that I may not have the time to commit to it.
Chris,
Absolutely.
What genre pays the bills, and what genre or VO adjacent part of your work feeds the soul?
I love that. What pays the bills is promo stuff.
Cool. I thought it'd be video game stuff. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, video games. I definitely keep me busy. I would say promo because of the volume.
Nice.
And how quick the iteration is on it. And I think as far as like what feeds the soul, stuff that points back to my roots. So like classical theater stuff. So like getting to work on Diablo 4 last year and working Warcraft the year before that, you know, it's like so Shakespearean how they write these characters, and the stakes are so delicious and complex. And I really get to sink my teeth into like something theatrical. That's when I really, you know, feel replenished, I'd say.
Chris, is there anything on the horizon that you can share with us that is coming out?
Any fun projects you can talk about coming up?
Yes, I joined the cast of Marvel Rivals as Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin.
Good job, dude! Congratulations.
Thank you.
How wild!
You.
That's fantastic.
Thank you. I'm so excited, and it's such a kind of next step in my career, and I'm so grateful to have been given, you know, the ball to do it. It's so fun. It's so lore rich, you know, and it's rare that we get to step into characters that are researchable, right? That are not fully original. And so I've been reading, you know, by the light of the moon, been reading you know, Amazing Spider-Man and, you know, Punisher Max and Civil War II Kingpin. It's been just so fun to step into this role and get to play with, you know, a lot of my VO heroes actually in this cast.
Kevin, I have to tell you something really funny. Speaking of Marvel, I was on LinkedIn and I connected with somebody, and they went to my website and they saw the Marvel logo. And they said, "That is so cool. What have you done?" And I said, "I did a toothbrush." Kevin hired me.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, I've worked I've done some work for a toothbrush company, Chris, that they produce and they license with all these, they license with Marvel to produce this sweet Iron Man toothbrush. Like it's like
nice.
300 and something bucks,
Yeah.
collector's box, all this stuff. And when you open it, the audio kicks in, boom, and Bobby comes on, welcome to Stark Industries. Da-da-da-da.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, super cool. So she gets to hang on her resume, done some work for Marvel.
That's pushing it, I know.
Yeah, that's great.
I love it. No, that counts.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
great.
You got to sell that sizzle. Let's see, Chris, we're going to get a nightmare session from you in just a little bit. You were just talking about some of the character work that you love doing, and I know you do a lot of villain work, but is there a specific type of character beyond just the villain that you love to do, a specific type of villain, or maybe it's not a villain? What kind of character work do you like to do the most?
I like to do like a world-weary mentor. I think I have a very old
Like
soul.
a sage?
And and they like, a warrior that then chose the path of like intellect or something, that's like kind of being recalled to their old ways, and they're kind of grappling with how they move forward and how they could best serve the story. I love that stuff.
Can you give us an example of let's say your weary world battler sage is going to Starbucks to order a coffee?
Yeah.
How might they order a coffee?
Let me see here. You don't have the caramel apple cider? I guess I'll just get a sandwich. Thank you.
Oh, that's brilliant.
wow.
Thank you. That was perfect, man. That was great.
What a difference in the tone of your voice. How cool is that? How do you feel about AI in the genres that you work with? I have to ask that question.
Yeah, that's fair. I've heard it in doing Scratch for commercials and whatnot. And, frankly, I was never a huge fan of booking commercial Scratch and then you don't get the actual commercial and, the rate isn't spectacular or really, much of anything. And then someone else kind of uses your inspiration to make the big bucks, So I think using it for commercial Scratch, I think is really kind of efficient. As far as video game, with the strike, we were pushing for control and compensation in response. And I heard Karin, mention that on the show as well. But and so I don't know what ultimately that will look like. There is talk of there's some projects that they're considering having actors overlay on someone else's performance, kind of like a TikTok filter, I've heard. There was talk years ago of you auditioning for one role and then them splitting it into 16 different NPCs of different classes and different, putting different accents on it. So I honestly don't know how it's going to manifest in video game. I do think that we are very happy with what we got from the negotiation table at the strike. And it's kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern, but as far as I see it, but I try to just kind of like walk forward with, optimism and leading my best foot forward and, what will be, and contending with that when it does come. I think when I'm talking to like up and coming talent, I try to impart to them that you have to put as much of yourself into your performance and as much of your lived experience and perspective, more so now than ever, to kind of future-proof it. We'll see how it manifests, really.
Would you ever consider, as you age or health reasons, to have your voice made into put in a voice bank for your profit?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I think if it could be translated to an experience, like especially for like kids. You know what I mean? Like, if it was like a theme park thing, I would totally be in support of that. You know, it's like a kiosk or something where kids can interact with, you know, if I was fortunate enough to create a character that resonated with people in that way. You know, oh, it's a kiosk and you can go talk to Florple and, you know, he'll say your name, you know, that kind of thing. I living in Orlando, I'm really charmed by it, and I have a soft spot for theme parks, of course. But something like that, I think that is a little bit removed from the profit machine and a little bit more leaning towards, you know, enriching experiences for people and connecting with audiences.
Love that.
That's super cool. I wanted to follow up on you talking about this commercial scratches a minute ago, because something happened to me on Friday. And I was like, what's this? And I'm like, so Friday I got some cash in from one of my agents, and I was like, oh, what was that job? Yeah, it's always just, you know, surprise. I'm like, what's this for?
It is always a surprise.
And I'm like, I had to look it up, and I'm like, okay, you know, you audition all the time, right? You have no idea. And then I'm like, when did I do that gig? And I'm like, I didn't do that gig. And I went and looked up the audition, and then I went and did a deeper look on the pay, and it said pay for scratch. And I'm like, oh, they used me as scratch. And then I went back and looked at the audition in more detail. It was a freaking $39,000 commercial job.
Oh, wow.
And I was that close. I got the scratch. But like you said, it's like they used me for the inspiration. But anyway.
Isn't that awful?
Yeah. Well, it was still a surprise, and I wasn't expecting anything. So, you know, hey.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, it's. I've had that where people have those stories where they're the reference and then they don't book it. They're like, "You have my number. You could just hire."
I would have done it. I would have done it. But the other thing I wanted to get to you, you know, because we've covered so much of your career and so much of what you do and how passionate you are. But Chris, is there something that you feel you can get better at in this world?
Yeah. I think that I can get better. I kind of want to reimagine. I want to reimagine myself, you know, and how I do the work in a big way, like kind of renovate. Because I think that when we find something that's working and it's hitting, it's really tempting to kind of reheat one's own nachos. And I think that I'm sometimes guilty of that. And there have been long-term jobs, like working at UFC, where I'm like, oh, like this is like my invention well is running a little dry, and I am reheating this intro, and part of that is important for the imaging of the brand, but also I can do better, and I can do more, and so I'm also auditioning for different kinds of characters too. Because like I said, you know, I do tend to gravitate towards the sage or the, villain or whatnot. I'm trying to explore these perspectives of characters that are uncomfortable for me, you know, like a protagonist, young lover type person, or, you know, these different types of vulnerability in the work. So I think that's going to take me really renovating how I approach the work. And I'm getting back to hitting the books, rereading Respect for Acting and the Stanislavski system and all that stuff to kind of replumb those depths where I originally found, you know, what I use now.
You don't want to miss what's next. Making Waves returns momentarily.
What up, what up? It's Erica J, voice actor, singer, writer, water snob, and tired mom. Here on the Making Waves podcast with Kevin and Bobby. Because the Making MP3s podcast just doesn't have a good ring to it at all.
Wondering which mic fits your voice? How to dial in your booth? Or which interface to make your sound shine? Full Compass has been guiding pros for nearly 50 years, so you can trust them to help build your perfect VO setup. From essentials like mics, headphones, and cables to advanced gear like mixers, DAWs, and interfaces, Full Compass has you covered. Get free expert advice. Call 800-356-5844. And for unbeatable prices, go to fullcompass.com. Full Compass. We know VO.
Making Waves returns. Do you play video games? And if you do, does that help in your performance?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so important. I call it eating your vegetables to people. Whether it's video games is a pretty good vegetable, but whether it's watching something or reading something. But I play video games. I came up playing Call of Duty and whatnot. I played a ton of NCAA football and Madden. And I had the privilege of recording for College Football 25 a couple years ago down here, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I got to go to EA Orlando and just like shake hands with the Madden guys, and that was like such a wish fulfillment. But as far as like JRPGs and like longer form games that are like 100+ hours, I'm really not good at being disciplined at that.
Yeah.
I could definitely, be more giving of my time to stuff like that because I work in those spaces and I should be more informed. But yeah, I play games really frequently, and me and my best friend from college, we hop on Discord and, we play Helldivers 2 these days or a variety of things. But yeah, I love playing games. And I think it's so important to getting that worm in your ear because it's such a specific, form.
Mm-hmm.
You were, I did a deep dive on your IMDb stuff, and you've been very, very busy. However, Chris, between 2011 and 2014, there are 0 entries. Were you in exile? What was going on there?
2011, I was 10 years old. No, 2011, 2011 to 2014, I was in college.
Okay.
So
what's
funny on IMDb is you can do a game and then they tack it onto your resume on IMDb when that game first came out, and they're like, "Wow, he's been doing this since 2005." I was like 13.
Okay.
But 11 through 14, those are the golden years. That was the college years.
I love that.
Good. I'm glad you were paying attention to the books.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Bobby, if you didn't have anything else.
No, I want to hear a nightmare session.
Oh, good. Chris, these are stories we talk about. We've all gone through them where these recording sessions maybe couldn't have gone much worse. Would you please share 1 or 2 nightmare session stories with us?
Nightmare Sessions!
Yeah, for sure. So one that was difficult was the accent one that I touched on earlier. But another one was I was booked for this VR zombie video game called Deadwood Valley, I think. And I played this character, Jason. And he's a character that you have to save from zombies. So it's like very vocally stressful role. And, I'm living in New York at the time. It's, winter time. It's very cold. I go to bed and I wake up and I feel like I just got hit by a truck. And I'm like, what happened? What's going on? I have a session in a couple hours, try and do everything I can to hydrate and warm up and whatnot. Then I actually start phonating and practicing the lines, and my voice sounds like a different person because there was so much inflammation. And so I hop on the line and I just pretend that it's going well. Like I'm like, hey, how's it going, everybody? He's like, oh yeah.
I sound great.
Yeah, it's a good day. And I am like performing the role, and I'm at my home studio, thank goodness. I'm like lightheaded. I like had half a mind to call out of it, but I was like, no, you got to do it.
Oh, wow.
And then we get to the efforts. They're like, all right, now you're getting eaten alive by zombies. All right, now you're getting set on fire. Now you're getting thrown off a cliff. And my voice is already on its last legs, and they don't even know, what I'm physically going through at that moment, because I'm trying to put the show must go on. And we wrap the session. Everyone's happy with it. We send it off, and then I immediately, go to sleep. Turns out that was the first time that of 2 total, but the first time that I had COVID, and I didn't even know. I didn't even know what was happening. I was like, I wasn't tasting stuff. I was lightheaded. My voice was completely different. So that game also kind of became like this, like nice little like. a little touchstone for me. It's like a game where I sound completely different, and it's at a Sandbox VR location near you. Yeah, that was one that I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to get through this. And I had no idea how much of an underdog I was with that COVID element in there.
That's rough.
And just gave it my all, and we got through it.
Way to persevere.
I had no idea. Yeah, it was tricky. Well, and in the grand butterfly effect scheme of things, the agent that cast me into that game, something like 3-4 years later, would cast me as the voice of Hostess. So
wow.
I think I like to think that if I had screwed over that agent back then, I things would be a little bit different right now too. So it was like this little like kind of butterfly effect moment.
That's super cool.
If anybody wants to, do you do coaching?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do coaching. Yeah, I do coaching auditions, character coaching, all sort of manner of stuff.
How can talent reach you if they'd like to?
Yeah, they could go to chrisokawa.com/contact, and we'd love to chat with anyone.
Love it. Chris, thanks so much for your time, and we wish you much continued success moving forward. And thanks for joining us on the Making Waves VO podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great honor.
Great to get to know you. Thanks, Chris.
Bobby, I have got to investigate reheating my nachos.
I know. Do you know how many times we talked about food in this podcast?
Makes me kind of hungry.
I haven't had lunch. I'm going, we talked about Hostess and nachos and McDonald's.
All kinds of stuff. Chris brings it out. It was such a pleasure to get to know him some more. I've worked with him a couple of times on some demo stuff, and just a cool cat, and just happy. You get happy for people like that. That just you can feel the positive energy, and they just want to do well by themselves and by the voiceover community, and you could tell he's the kind of guy that likes helping people too.
One of the good guys. Love it.
Very good, very good. Well, Bobby, we'll do it again. And the Making Waves VO podcast is presented by Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
The Making Waves VO podcast is produced by K2 Media Productions with hosts Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell. Sound design and editing by Jason Traver. Production assistance by Lacey Deline. Publicity and social media by Shannon Scott and Silas Phillips. Be sure to subscribe to the Making Waves VO podcast on your favorite platform. For all episodes, merchandise, gear, and more, visit makingwavesvo.com. Until next time, I'm AJ McKay. Keep making waves.